These 5 things that I'm about to show you are huge additions to XDefiant that are going to really set the game apart and make it an awesome experience to play later this summer. Now, before we get to that list, first off, thank you for stopping by the channel today. I appreciate it. My name is Buckeye, and welcome to XDefiant Guides. Now, I want to preface this list by stating that these are in no particular order. None of these points have any particular significance over the other. It's just altogether these 5 things are really, really big for the game. So without any further ado, let's get to number 1, which is something that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about so far, but is a huge addition to the game, and it's something that we haven't really seen from a AAA developer in a multiplayer game for quite some time now, and that's map voting. Now, if you are a gamer that's been around for the past decade or so, you can go back in your mind to the early 2010s and prior to that, when you played a multiplayer game that allowed you to choose what you wanted to play heading into the match. It partied up the whole lobby of people. It gave you a few options for what map you'd want to play. You selected what you wanted to play, and whatever map had the most votes within that time frame, that is what you ended up playing. But in recent years, we've moved into a new model of quick play where the game just decides for you what map you're going to play, and you don't have any say in the matter. This is something that has been sorely missed from a lot of games and a lot of people in the community that quite frankly just don't want to play a particular map that might be in the pool, and they really like playing one specific type of map. Now, a workaround that we've been seeing some games do is they just have full playlists in the game centered around one particular map, which is an interesting way of going about it, sure, but I don't necessarily think that is better than having a true and proper map voting system, where you go into the lobby, shows you what maps, and you just select what you want to do. To me, that is a really, really awesome addition to XDefiant, and it also keeps me a little grounded and gives me a little nostalgia to how shooters used to be back in the early 2010s. Now, if you like the feeling of map voting and you enjoyed that first point, let's jump into number 2, which is just simply the unique and fun arcadey maps that we have in XDefiant. A lot of the more recent shooter games that we've had come out have taken a very grounded approach, or at least in some of the more recent Modern Warfare games, they have this sort of gray palette, and the maps are really focused on being realistic and not so much fun and kind of off the walls and colorful. Well, that is different here in XDefiant. So far, the maps that we've gotten, they're all kind of taken from different aspects of various Ubisoft titles that have already been released, such as The Division or Far Cry, and they make really unique ways of putting together a map. It's actually a really fun time when you hop into the various maps. Nothing exactly feels the same. They're all a little bit different in their color palette. They pop on the screen, and they're just a fun time to be there. Now, sticking around with that same sort of concept, let's move into number 3 here. So far at launch, XDefiant is going to be connected to 5 individual Ubisoft franchises that already exist: Watch Dogs, The Division, Far Cry, Splinter Cell, and Ghost Recon. Now, I already briefly mentioned it before, but I want to elaborate on it further here. This simply means that at the start of the game right now, the factions that are in the game are from these other franchises in Ubisoft. Additionally, the maps also take heavy inspiration from various locations in these games. Now, the reason why that is so cool is because it does 2 things from the start. Number 1, it connects XDefiant to the rest of the Ubisoft universe, right? The various games that Ubisoft has already created, it kind of ties it all together and makes it feel connected. The second thing that's really cool is that this opens up the opportunity to have a really awesome connection of content in the future. Can XDefiant do events with the launch of another Ubisoft game? For example, the newest Assassin's Creed game. Could there be an event that happens a month prior to that release where we have some maps that are tailored around Assassin's Creed and we get some cool skins that are tailored to Assassin's Creed? I mean, that's really cool. The fact that Ubisoft itself is a publisher and has all these other franchises gives free access to additional content to XDefiant. And on top of that, XDefiant is its own game and has its own maps and its own way of doing things, but it simply gives more options moving forward, and I'm super excited to see what kind of things we can see happen with the connection to the other Ubisoft franchises. That is also a topic for future video that I'm already working on, so if you have any thoughts or ideas regarding the idea of future Ubisoft content with XDefiant, let me know in the comments down below, and who knows, maybe it'll get included in that video. Now, let's take a step away from the Ubisoft talk here, and let's go back to the multiplayer side of things with number 4, and that's the fact that XDefiant will not feature skill-based matchmaking and casual matchmaking in the game. There will be two ways of playing. You can play casual matchmaking and ranked matchmaking. In ranked, there will be skill-based matchmaking. In casual, there will not be. The developers have stated that basically the way it will work is that you will be randomly connected with other players based off of their ping, their location, their connection to the servers, right? And then once the lobby has been found, it will then balance each team based off of the player's MMR, but it will not search for players to match MMR. It will just simply balance out each team to make it more fluid, but it will not search specifically to match players of your skill level. There really is a very hot discussion around the subject with people who are for SBMM and people who are not for SBMM. Now, with that said, casual matchmaking in XDefiant will not feature skill-based matchmaking, but ranked, which is where you're going to be competitively competing against other players for that next rank, that is where you will feature skill-based matchmaking in the game, and I think that's a good thing. Now, finally here, number 5, the last thing I want to discuss today is the direct communication that we are getting from head developers at XDefiant. I'll tell you right now, the communication that we have been getting from Mark Rubin has been absolutely phenomenal on Twitter. He has been connecting with the community in such a way that I've really not seen much from other AAA developers in the past. He's the executive producer on the game, and he is talking to basically anybody who will reach out to him on Twitter and now on Threads, and basically answering any question that people have. As someone who's a part of the community, it really makes me feel like I'm cared about and like my opinion matters. Every time I have a question about the game, I'm curious to see what Mark Rubin has to say. And the other thing too, a lot of the discussions that have been surrounding XDefiant and leading up to release have come from his tweets, where he's interacting with people, giving thoughts, giving feedback regarding the game and what we can expect moving forward. To me, that is a really phenomenal asset that gives this game a lot of potential moving forward. Because when a player feels accepted and feels important, it makes them care more about the game, even if it's not in a state that they love. It gives them more of a reason to stick around and wait for those updates that might come to make them more happy in the game. And I think for a newly developed game coming into this highly competitive space, I think that is a very, very important aspect to have. Now, one bonus thing I do want to just mention, it's an honorable mention here. Of course, the game being free to play is a huge aspect that can set this game up for success. You have a low barrier of entry, means that anybody can get into the game and potentially like it and play it a bunch moving forward. Now, if you want to find out what XDefiant has to do in order to maintain relevance after the launch of the game moving forward into the following months this year, check out the video on screen and in the description where I talk about what this game has to do to succeed moving forward.